So, there it is, it's done. The Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 open beta, and what an open beta it has been. I think a big shout out has to go to Activision and Infinity Ward for letting us all play the new Call of Duty for so many days before its full release. I mean, if you pre-ordered the game, you could play it for about 6 days, I think, maybe 7 days. And even if you hadn't, if you're on PlayStation 4, I think there was at least 5 whole days that you could play that, maybe even 6 whole days you could play this game. So there can be no doubt that if you've played the beta and you've liked it, or you haven't liked it, you've had a free go. There's no gambling when it comes to pre-ordering or buying the game in the future. You'll have a really good idea, is this Call of Duty for you, or is it not? And I guess this is the whole point of the review. And think, we started with the closed alpha, didn't we, on PlayStation anyway, with gunfights, the 2v2 mode, which was very interesting. And I enjoyed the mode where you started off with different weapons and it changed as you were going through. Not too fond of the version we ended up with in the last days of the beta, which was the OSP, on-site procurement version, where often you'd end up with a pistol or something like that. But it's an interesting game mode, and definitely the normal mode I'll be very interested in playing a lot more of. The meat and potatoes of Call of Duty: team deathmatch, domination, and they also threw in headquarters and another mode which escapes me for a moment, where you had to pick up an electronic bomb and take it to the other team's headquarters. But suffice to say, in my opinion, team deathmatch and domination in this Call of Duty are good, solid games. We've returned to the Modern Warfare era, so it's M416s versus AKs, rocket launchers, no things like no silly perks that allow you to see through walls, or double jumping. There's only a little bit of sliding, a little bit of swan diving goes on, but again, in my opinion, this seems to play very much like Modern Warfare Remastered, which is probably the closest COD we've had in recent years to this sort of play style. Much slower, more tactical. There's a reason why this game has a lean mechanism, because you will want to be careful. You can run around the map, you can rush, but if you take that little bit more time, if you listen out for where the enemies are coming from, if you take a look at the minimap, then you can kind of see where people may be, or probably where they aren't, and then you can make your decisions accordingly. And that type of gameplay for me is really rewarding, even if I'm not doing that very well. I think, okay, I made that decision, it went right, or it didn't go right. Or when you make a decision and somebody comes around a corner and you blat them, then that's really good indeed. The class system has been simplified. There isn't really a class system. You can choose your cosmetics, and you can choose your loadout, but there's when you have your main gun, you can have 5 different things on it. Then you can have 3 different perks, and that's about it really. It's all very simple, and I like that, because the idea is that it reduces the amount of time you worry about your loadout. Because sometimes when you're playing online multiplayer shooters, you think, well, is it my loadout or is it me? Is that the reason why I'm not doing well? Of course, most of the time it's you. So that's what you want to be concentrating on. You want to be concentrating on practicing and getting better and doing it that way. And by simplifying the way that we choose our guns, we choose our classes, we choose our perks, I think that makes the game a lot more enjoyable that way. It looks good, it sounds good. It has that slightly cartoony feel compared to something like Frostbite's Battlefield engine, but there is so much detail in the levels. The noise, the sounds, they're good. I think they can be very muddled. It's very important, I think, to get into the options and turn down the in-game volume on things like the announcer and the music, so you can listen out for those footsteps. Because again, with this slower form of gameplay, that little tap of someone just moving slightly in that room next to you, so there is someone camping in there, can make all the difference between living or dying. I've got a feeling when we see the reviews coming out for the beta over the next week or so, there's going to be a lot of people who probably aren't too fond of this style of Call of Duty, mainly because it doesn't reward people who rush around. Because if you're rushing, you can hear them coming, you can hear their boots and then you can blat them as they're coming through. And lots of YouTubers who make videos, you know, their thing is to get lots of kills, to get nuclears, and that is much harder in this Call of Duty. But for the slower, older players like myself, I think it's better. Then we have the icing on the cake. There we have the amazing ground war, 32 versus 32. And honestly, although it may seem a bit chaotic at first, well, it might seem a bit chaotic all the time, this game mode, it's more Battlefield than Battlefield is. Well, it's more Battlefield 4 than Battlefield 4 is, because obviously it's going after a particular era of Battlefield, and again it's M4 and 6s versus AKs. But you know, the fact that you can go out onto this massive map, okay, it's probably about half the size of a Battlefield map, but you can go out onto it, there's helicopters flying around, there's tanks flying around, there's jets screaming in, A-10s doing gun runs. It is incredibly cinematic, and you have many Battlefield moments in a Call of Duty game. And what they've got really right about it is the respawn time. In Battlefield, one of the problems is when you die, it can take you quite a while to get back into the action. Not so with Ground War. Die, hit the respawn button, and within a couple of seconds you're back in the fight, having fun, getting killed, maybe killing other people, calling in kill streaks, and having a great time. Now, there are problems with the game, as you'd expect. Things that need balancing are probably the weapons, especially in Ground War. The snipers are much too powerful. One-shot kill from the waist above, you can't really have that. You need to have something, say, one-shot kill to the head. Otherwise you end up just getting sniped all the time, and it really does encourage people to camp near windows and black people that way, so that they can then get their kill streaks, which they then call in to get them more kills, and it sort of snowballs like that. The other thing that is annoying, definitely, is how dark it is when you're transitioning from the outside to the inside of buildings. Defenders have a massive advantage when they're inside, basically because they can look out of darkened areas to shoot at people, but also when you're coming from the outside and you open a door, often you can't see anything, and you know, you can't even clear the corners because you can't see. You have to commit to going in, and by that time you've exposed yourself. However, if these things can be sorted out, which I'm sure they will, and the spawning can be sorted out, which I'm sure they will because we always have this in betas, then I think we've got a really solid Call of Duty this year. Last year with Black Ops 4, they sacrificed the campaign, didn't they, and then gave us Blackout, the Battle Royale mode. Now I'm fully expecting in the new year for us to have a Battle Royale on the big Ground War map, because it's big enough to do it, and they've got the code to do it as well from Blackout, and you could drop in that way. However, I don't know really if I want that for Call of Duty. I'm enjoying Ground War much more than I enjoyed the Battle Royale in Black Ops 4, much more than I enjoyed Blackout. And then it comes to the fact, you know, should you buy this? It's an interesting question. I mean, I've enjoyed this Call of Duty more than a Call of Duty I've enjoyed for a long time. Probably since Black Ops 3, you know. If you go back through the Call of Duties, they all had problems with them, didn't they? You know, if you think about Black Ops 4, no campaign, and they really managed to screw it with lots of sort of pay-to-win things. Then you had the really long time to kill in Blackout, which was very disappointing. Before that you had COD World War II, which had an amazing campaign, but the multiplayer was okay, but the maps were too small. Before that you had Infinite Warfare, which was just, for me, which was terrible. I didn't even play the campaign, and the multiplayer was just terrible. And before that you had Black Ops 3. Now I really like Black Ops 3, one of my favourite Call of Duties, put hundreds of hours into that. Now this one, Modern Warfare 29, for me seems to get many things right and lots of ticks. However, even if it is a really good COD, even if it is an amazing COD, I've still got to weigh up. Do I want to invest all the time and effort into playing a Call of Duty over the next year, because there can be no doubt once you've worked your way through the campaign, which will probably be good or at least interesting anyway, you've then got to grind the multiplayer, because what you have to do is you have to build up those Twitch muscle memory skills in order to be able to perform. And I think to enjoy the multiplayer in Call of Duty, you've kind of got to do well. You know, you don't want to be at the bottom of the scoreboard all the time and not earning kill streaks. And there's so many other games that, you know, I've got to play that I enjoy playing. Things like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, I still love that. DayZ, which is a massive time eater, still got that. And then the black horse, if you like, in this, the wild card, the joker, is Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. Now, I really enjoyed Ghost Recon Wildlands, and Breakpoint is a departure from that, and there's lots of things in Breakpoint that I see that I don't like. You know, I don't like the fact that you're shooting drones and going after tank robots, and I'm not too fond of the story, the fact that you're on this big island by yourself, well, with some buddies, but it's like, come on, you'll remember the US military, surely some rescuers would have tried to come your way since then, but apparently that's explained in the story. But nonetheless, despite these reservations and the fact they've taken away AI teammates, which although were a little bit clunky in Wildlands, they still added a level of tactical shooter mechanic that I really enjoyed. I watched the footage of Breakpoint and I still think that looks really, really cool. You know, it's the sniper elite play at me, wanting to, you know, flank round, mark enemies, snipe them off one by one, and then go in nice and stealthily and take them out. And I really enjoy that sort of gameplay. And there can be no doubt that that's a single player campaign experience, albeit an open world one. So that's what I'm balancing, really. Do I want to spend a lot of time in something like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, or do I want to spend a lot of time in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019? Now, I think for you, if you're a big Call of Duty fan, then this is a no-brainer. You know, you buy this game. If you're a little bit on the fence after the beta, buy it anyway, because they're going to make some adjustments as we roll into the full release, and we're going to get all these maps. We're going to get the campaign, and it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're into shooters, then I think this is probably going to be a no-brainer as well. But for me, again, it's just about balancing the time, because remember, I do have the YouTube channel as well, so I've got to think what's best for making content. And you know, I think I can probably make fairly interesting content for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and DayZ. But Call of Duty, although I've played it an awful lot, I'm not an expert. There's many more people out there making videos who can make a lot more accurate and helpful videos than I can. But maybe if I throw my time into Call of Duty this time, I could make some good videos there. The beauty with Ghost Recon Breakpoint is they would be sort of playthrough videos, so I'm playing through, whacking up the difficulty level, enjoying that. One thing's for certain, I don't have the time to play both, so at some point I will have to make a choice. There is another open beta for Breakpoint that's coming up near the end of this month, so before I make a decision about buying Call of Duty that is, or buying Breakpoint, I'm definitely going to play that beta, play it through, see how I feel about that, and then make a decision. If Breakpoint seems to be a little bit disappointing or a little bit boring, then Call of Duty it will be for me. And I don't know, the more I think about it, actually, I think probably Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 is going to be a no-brainer, because it does kind of fit with what I do in my channel, doesn't it? Which is semi-realistic shooters for the main, you know, PUBG, DayZ, things, you know, Battlefield, that sort of thing. And without a Battlefield 5, because that's been so disappointing this year, I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 could really fit into that space, with the fantastic surprises and the great fun that we've had in ground war, gunfight, and of course team deathmatch and domination. So there we go, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. I think it's got to be highly recommended. Okay, that's enough from me. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.